Welcome Justice Yvonne Mokgoro to the African Women in Law Legacy Project. It is an honor to have you with us here today to share your extraordinary life story and your groundbreaking accomplishments. South Africa is a place very close to my heart, rising from apartheid to Nelson Mandela and independence, a story I know well, and you were a part of that great liberating story and that struggle. One of the great honors of my life was to meet one of your colleagues on the South African Constitutional Court, Albie Sachs, where we worked together to do an induction for the new Supreme Court in Kenya several years ago. Welcome, Justice.
Thank you so much, Judge Williams. It is my honor really to be interacting with you today and with the audience. Thank you for inviting me.
I'd like you to talk about the lesson there, 4 years at home, on and off, protesting, standing up, but you kept going. And in our audience, we have women and men who have faced adversity, who have faced terrible challenges. What did you hold on to keep you going?
For me, it was the need to have courage, the need to ensure there is justice and to see injustice and recognize it where it manifests and fight for it, especially if you do it on behalf of people who do not have a chance to stand up for themselves because they do not have the necessary voice to do so. And if you are able to exercise your own voice because you have a stronger voice, for me, it is critical that you do so not only on your own behalf, but on behalf of those most vulnerable who are not in a position to stand up for themselves and therefore to make their own voices heard.
So using that voice, to me, it's like the power of one. I think sometimes people think, I can't do anything, I can't make a difference, but everyone can make a difference. You have to find what works for you and the kind of voice you have, but you get your voice and then other voices join with you to move forward. And you decided then, you went to study law at University of Pennsylvania. This is another incident that happened in your life that would have made some people quit, but you found out your husband had been arrested and wanted to come back to South Africa. Why didn't you go back? Who made a promise to you?
I dared not go back. I had this feeling that because I have a voice, I need to use that voice to make that difference that you're talking about. And I found myself in a position which I thought was a strong position to actually make that voice heard. Not only for people, but also with people. And I think that is also why, while I was a judicial officer, while I was a judge, I at the same time interacted and worked in civil society circles. Because for me, social justice, not only legal justice, but social justice was also so critical, bringing down the law to make a difference in the lives of people, the actual lives of people. And doing that simultaneously for me was quite a privilege.
And so to me, you viewed your position as a judge, and of course, I didn't have the struggles that you had, so I'm not trying to suggest that at all. But one of the things I've always tried to do as a judge is to use the power that I have to influence society in an appropriate way. So you didn't just listen to the cases, read the law, make decisions, which of course was very, very critical, but because of the position you were in, you had influence and you had power. and you could affect change on the ground being involved with those organizations. And so let's talk about that obligation that lawyers have, because we've been so blessed as lawyers and judges that that responsibility to give back, because you've been president of Africa Legal Aid, served on Nelson Mandela's Children Fund, served on the South African Police Services Education Trust Board. Why did you say yes to those organizations?
I think because they gave me the opportunity to interact at a ground level with the people whose needs drove the reality that unless we, in practical terms, translate the promises of a legal system which protects the rights of people at a nominal level, the idea of a constitution and the idea of constitutionalism will not ring true for people in their ordinary lives. It was important for me to get regular people to understand and appreciate the idea of human rights protection and the need to assert their rights, but they need to know their rights first before they assert their rights. So this interaction with me and ordinary people gave me, in fact, it strengthened my voice in order to bring even the people along by getting them to understand the Constitution and what it means, not only to them, but to everybody at all levels. And it also gave me an opportunity to take people along in this quest for social justice, where people needed to know that they do not only need to fight for themselves, because if you fight for yourself and you attain justice, you have gained a voice. And once you gain that voice, it is important that you use your voice to fight for the most vulnerable and take them along as you fight for them, so that they can understand the need to fight for themselves. And as I say, once they attain that, they use that strong voice to fight for others. It is so important.
And then legal aid, the idea that people who can't afford lawyers can actually get access to legal representation. It's an issue here in the United States as well, because our statistics show that 50% of the people who need a lawyer can't afford a lawyer, never get a lawyer. And of course, their rights get trampled when they don't have legal representation. And that leads me to the next thing. One of your big campaigns has been to increase the number of women lawyers and the number of women judges. And you've been very targeted in your approach. Could you share with us how you have addressed this problem of increasing the number of women in law and particularly on the bench?
We have an association of women judges, which is part of the International Association of Women Judges, namely the South African Association of Women Judges. And I have always served on that organization and currently am a patron to that organization. But what we generally do is to congregate women judges in one space and draw their attention all the time to the fact that after they had attained a position, a judicial position, it is not sufficient. it is so important for all of us to work together. In fact, I always believe that we have to work together with male judges too. And we have had a few male judges who we had given honorary status in our organization, judges who we call feminist judges, because of their understanding of the need to have sufficient women judges within the judiciary in order to assist the judiciary and to change the way in which society regards women and places women. And so what we do every time when there are positions advertised to be filled on the various courts, we would encourage women to put themselves forward for nomination. Because in South Africa, you don't apply to become a judge, you get nominated to a judicial vacancy, and you get supported by probably senior judges who would recommend you to the Judicial Services Commission for appointment. So we would encourage women judges, and we ensure that we select the strong women judges, get them to understand that unless they put themselves forward for appointment, we might not reach the necessary strength of women within the judiciary to bring the necessary change, not only in the judiciary, but also get society to see the power of women on the bench and the thinking of women on the bench and the difference that women on the bench can bring, not only to jurisprudence in South Africa, but also the way the law applies in the ordinary lives of people generally, women in particular, and more particular, women and children, and the relationship between men and women. So it is important for us, and we make that point, that it is important, knowing well how difficult sometimes it is for women to serve on the bench. But if you are ready to serve on the bench, we encourage women to put themselves forward. And difficult as they might find it, particularly in the beginning, but as they get used to finding ways in which they work as women on the bench, and they use their time, or they juggle their responsibilities as women in the home, in society, and spend their time on the bench in a way that ensures that they make the difference that we know women can make when they serve on the bench. We always say to people, the place of a woman is not in the kitchen. It is also on the bench. She also belongs on the bench, especially in a society, an African society generally in the continent, especially in societies where patriarchy is still so formidable. It is important for women to be seen in those powerful positions, serving with excellence, so that they show society where the place of women really is. In a world where their thoughts, their ideas make a difference, not only for themselves, but also for the society in which we live.
And so the organizations that you belong to clearly mentor women, help sponsor women, help support women. And that mentoring was also important, as you said, even for you to change your path to go to law. And so could you speak to the importance of mentoring and sponsoring, and the fact that all your mentors and sponsors don't look like you, don't look like us? There are others that have reached out. And how do you get a mentor or sponsor? I'm often asked that question by young women. Well, how is it that how do you get recognized by your seniors? How do you find the people that will help you in your career?
I always say to people, what you need when you interact with your seniors is confidence. The confidence that you know what you are talking about, the confidence that you know what you are doing. And therefore, in order to know what you want and know what you do, you inform yourself. And you try to serve with your seniors on an equal level. And you will do that if you are sufficiently informed and you have gained the confidence that you need to do that. And it is also important, I say, to serve at an equal level, even if you serve with your seniors. As a woman, it is important to show those that you interact with the power of women, the difference that women can make in those positions, and show them that those positions are not meant for one sector of human society, one gender of human society. It is meant for all of those who have a responsibility to serve. And women have an equal responsibility and therefore an equal right to serve in those positions.
And when you talk about serving with your seniors, so volunteering with organizations that are making a difference in the justice sector, not just joining a women lawyers group, but being a leader in that women's, taking on responsibility so that people notice you, they notice your heart, they notice your competence, they notice your skills, because that's how you get to be known in your world so that people can support you. You mentioned this whole issue of women belong both in the kitchen and on the bench. So you have managed during the course of your career to be a brilliant, groundbreaking jurist and to raise a family. So any suggestions you have for women that are facing that same struggle in terms of trying to balance both?
You know, I have this notion that we are all equal inherently. I, as a woman, and the next woman, has an inherent right of equality. Women's reality of inequality is, I believe, merely a social construct. It is therefore important for women to show, come out, take leadership, if you may, and show and change the way society, as I said earlier, regards women. Women's inequality, being a social construct, can be deconstructed by society itself. It is for that reason that I believe very strongly that the struggle for women's rights and the struggle for women's equality, the struggle for justice for women, is not a women's issue. It is a social issue. And it is for that reason that it is also, as much as it is the responsibility of women, and maybe women would have to take the first responsibility, it is equally the responsibility of men, and therefore the responsibility of society as a whole to struggle for women's equality. We are all inherently equal.
So
we
in
have
terms
to
of,
break down the walls of discrimination that have been created by society. And it is better, it will be better if society as a whole break down those walls and do not make, society doesn't make it the responsibility of women only.
it is, to me, the critical piece of how you change a society, always thinking of others and what you can do, whatever skills you have, because a lot of our audience will be lawyers or judges, but everyday people can make a difference in the life of anyone in their village. You know, to see someone hungry and to provide a meal, or to see a child that needs some direction, or to do something at the school to volunteer, or to go to the clinic and volunteer, or do things in your church that can make a difference. There are just so many ways, and no one can really pick for you what is the best way. You have to look at what's going on in your own life and figure out how you can give back. But we all have that obligation to give back, and certainly Justice, you are in a really words, I am without words when I try to describe how your whole life has been, and that even now, when you could sit back and relax and enjoy all that you have done, you continue to keep marching and stepping forward. And so I thank you so much for sharing your life story, for sharing the lessons that you've learned with all of us. Their words and your actions will remain with us and will guide us as we all work toward equal justice and giving voice to the voiceless. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Judge Williams. It was a pleasure talking to you.
The pleasure was all mine.